since late August of 1979, our military, the Russian military, basically the militaries of the world, have been in constant conflict with the outer space alien.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on another episode of Evil's Ancient Origins. Today, we're going to begin looking into someone I came across early on in my journey of researching the topic of aliens. Phil Schneider was a geologist and engineer whistleblower who claimed to have worked for government black budget projects building DUMBs, or deep underground military bases. His story is very compelling. Have you ever wondered about the origin of aliens? Ghosts, or demons? Have you ever asked your priest or pastor if the Bible can explain these things, only to come away with no real answers? I don't know about you, but I have. So I spent the past 15 years researching these topics, and I've pieced together a very compelling explanation for many of the world's mysteries. I'd like to start a conversation about the things your pastor is afraid to talk about. This is Audra Moore, and you're listening to Evil's Ancient Origins. Phil was born on April 23rd of 1947 to a U.S. naval captain, Otto Oscar Schneider, who served as a medical doctor for U.S. Naval Intelligence, working with nuclear medicine. I had a bit of a struggle initially locating any original footage of Phil, but once I began using an alternative search engine, I was finally able to locate 4 of Phil's original lectures. In my mind, this says a lot about their contents. The following is a compilation of excerpts from only one of these lectures. His primary declaration is that the governments of the world have been secretly at war with alien forces here on Earth, including a personal account of his experience with these alien beings. Now, I do want to warn you, this lecture was recorded in 1995, so some of the contents which were controversial then are even more so today. I am not including statements he made which border on being offensive in our society today, but we can't allow his attitude or comments to cloud the overarching message that he gives. So, buckle up and enjoy the show.
I'm Phil Schneider. I spent 17 years in black budget programs, government geologist as engineer, structural engineer with aerospace applications, self-taught metallurgist. I'm going to be real brief about it. I carried a level 1 security clearance, the Rhyolite 38 factor. There are very few of us. There's nobody except myself, to my knowledge, talking like this. Nobody. I'm breaking the law. I'm breaking world as well as federal law. I'm coming out and even talking about this to a group of people. I love my country more than I love my life. I almost got killed a couple of weeks ago. Hadn't been for an a retired FBI man who risked his life, his career, everything, put it all on the line, and he didn't know me from Adam.
Whistleblowers have always faced danger when operating openly in public view, as Philip was in this recording. All 4 of the lectures which surfaced of Phil were held in 1995, each within months of his suspicious death, which occurred in January of 1996.
The alien thing is more than just what I'd call a non-visible threat. All information dealing with alien or alien reproduced technology or alien reproduced vehicles or any other kinds of things well hidden from the American public. Our black budget, for instance, garners $1.023 trillion every 2 years. It's over $500 billion a year. Right now, there are 131 active deep underground military bases in the United States. There's 1,477 of them worldwide. Each one has an average cost of $17 to $19 billion. Each one is built in the site. It used to be it'd take a year to 2 years to build each one, and now they're capable of building a couple of them a year with sophisticated methods.
Right off the bat, Phil makes some pretty far-fetched claims. The idea of our government using alien technology has been around for a long time, but Phil's expertise lends to this idea having more credibility.
Up here I have different artifacts. Some of them are alien metals that have been produced both on this planet and the confines of outer space that are now used in all stealth aircraft. For instance, all black jets, what you're seeing of black helicopters and the like. The skins and the coatings and the residues that are used predominantly in the aircraft themselves, in the airframes and the rotor blades and the fans, and in some cases in submarines, special titanium hulls in the Phoenix class submarines now. All this has come from alien technology. I have actual crashed retriever metal from Roswell, New Mexico. It was given to me when I was 14 years old. 1947 is what the public has been told. Something crashed in the backyard in New Mexico, a place called Roswell, New Mexico. Unfortunately, that's what the public's been told. The military's known about the alien question for the better part of 70 years, and they first saw their glimpse of what was going on as early as 1909 in the American Southwest. Now, Army cavalry evidently were chasing some bandits, and they entered this cave. They were holed up in a cave, and what they found in there was flying discs and little gray guys and all kinds of weird things, and they didn't know how to explain that, and they wrote them down as best they could, and it's been in secret archives ever since. That's down by the Truth or Consequences area of New Mexico.
Now, this information was completely new to me. I had never heard of the early 20th century cave findings in New Mexico. It immediately brought to my mind the film Cowboys and Aliens with Daniel Craig, a surprising find for sure.
In working with the Black Projects, I was very loyal. I was picked because I was very strong mentally. There's a bunch of us that were picked because we don't crack under pressure. We don't freak under pressure, so to speak. Everyday events don't bother us. Now, I was involved in something very controversial, almost totally unbelievable to most of you. I was involved in building another base inside of Dulce, New Mexico, which is Los Alamos Laboratory. It's a biological laboratory. On the southwest part of the Archuleta Mesa, we built an underground facility, a better part of 3 cubic miles hollowed out underground. Then to the southwest of that, we were in the process of the early stages of building. We drilled 4 large tunnel-like holes. Some of them ran 2.5 miles under the surface. When you build an underground base, you drill 4 basic holes, and then you call stopes or cross-member holes across, and then you use blasting equipment, special blasting equipment by the analyzation of the rock formation, and you literally blast out or tunnel out or deflagrate or melt rock out to build the large rooms that are required for this underground base. The equipment kept coming up broken. So we wanted to go down, we wanted to send somebody down there, a human observer, or human observers in this case, to find out what was going on. Well, to our total surprise, the large alien grays had been encamped there for as best as believed possible about 400 or 500 years. It had been one of their internal bases. And we'd drilled holes right on top of it. All the stinking air, all the black sooty air came right out as soon as the first hole was sunk, and all this soot came up. And, well, that's when all the hell broke loose, really, all started. Anyway, after we drilled all 4 holes, it took about 2 days to drill all 4 of them. In this process, I was lowered down the basket of one of these holes, and about from me to this elderly woman here in the front was sitting a 7-foot tall alien gray The stench was worse than the worst garbage can you can imagine. The person the entity was absolutely horrible. I didn't waste any time to reach for my pistol. At that time, as an engineer, I didn't have time to carry all the folderol of one of these big submachine guns. I carried a little Walther PPK pistol with a 9-shot clip. This is in late August of 1979. I killed 2 of them. Yes, they're mortal, and they do die. However, in the process, one of them did this. All I remember is that he just kind of waved his hand in front of his chest, and the next thing I know, this blue beam hit me and just literally opened me up like a fish, and burnt my fingers right off of me. And it was some form of electrical force, because the kind of like being hit by a lightning bolt burned all my toenails off of me. Completely crispy crittered my left foot, burnt the shoe right off of me. All I remember is the smoking remains, and I'm still conscious, but in and out of, I didn't remember much. And there was a Green Beret that was right behind me that risked his life. In fact, he died. But he risked his life. He shoved me back in the bass and hit the button and took me up. And I wouldn't be alive talking to you today if it wasn't for him. I'm forever indebted. He lost his life. 66 Secret Service agents, Green Berets, Black Berets, crack troops lost their lives because the government, our United States government, lied, did not tell us anything about the alien threat. There's a war underneath there, and I'm talking dead serious. It's been going on since that time. Since late August of 1979, our military, the Russian military, basically the militaries of the world, have been in constant conflict with the outer space alien. The small gray, the large gray, the reptilians, the whole thing. There are 11 distinct races of aliens. 2 are benevolent. One had to leave here in a hurry because their world is under attack, both on the surface as well as underground there, the Pleiadians. These are the benevolent aliens, and they've been here helping us.
Okay, now I know what you're thinking. These claims are completely absurd. There's no way that this guy is in his right mind. Well, I like to propose that we reserve the right to judge only once we have evaluated the facts. Phil Schneider was the son of a very decorated military officer. This would explain his access to even having the opportunity to be involved in such an operation. Secondly, he goes into quite extensive detail about the materials and technology that our government uses, and as a geologist, he seems quite capable in his explanation. And finally, there's the question of his untimely death. Phil had suffered for the remainder of his life with pain and illness as a result of his encounter with the alien weapon and the damage that it had done to his body. He had developed cancer, but was still functioning well enough to have given his final lecture only 2 months prior to his death. They had originally ruled that he had died of a stroke until his ex-wife insisted on an autopsy, which determined that it was suicide by asphyxiation, attempting to claim that Phil had choked himself to death with his own oxygen hose. This all seems very suspicious indeed. Okay, let's address the elephants in the room, namely the idea that these aliens have been under our feet for hundreds of years, and the concept there are multiple species of aliens, some of which are supposedly benevolent. I'm going to address these from a Christian perspective, although not one that you may have heard before. In my seeking God on these subjects, I have come to a logical perspective. My opinion on the ancient alien presence and their war happening under our feet is one based on the flood theory. I'd like to ask you to remember the scriptures here, where God had created the entire earth and its contents, including Adam and Eve. It states that God had already created the heavens and the earth and everything in them prior to Adam and Eve stepping out onto the scene. The angels would be included in this. There are multiple angels mentioned of varying different degrees of explanation, describing them with eyes all over their bodies and various different things. There is even mention of the serpent-like being in the garden who tempts Eve. This tempter is clearly defined later in Scripture as the devil himself. My theory is that when the flood occurred, many of these fallen angels and their offspring found refuge underground. Genesis 7, verse 22 states that everything on the dry land, all in whose nostrils was the breath and spirit of life, died. This clearly tells us that every living thing on the surface of the earth perished. So therefore, anything under the earth may have survived. In addition, we know that the creator of heaven and earth also created physics and his own vehicle to traverse space and time, since he is omnipresent. There is a clear description of this technology in Ezekiel. It's also referred to in Psalm 68, verse 17, where it reads, "The chariots of God are 20,000, even thousands of angels. The Lord is among them, as in Sinai in the holy place." This clearly depicts that angels have access to this heavenly technology. I would assume that the advanced technology that these beings have is either original or recreations of the heavenly technology that they had access to prior to being banished from the heavenly realm. As you can see, the ideas proposed to us by Phil Schneider are not really in opposition to what our Bible clearly states. It's only in opposition to what man has formulated in his mind. The footage of Phil's lecture that I used for this episode was located on Dumbbell 33 YouTube channel, and the details regarding Otto Oskar Schneider were located on wikitree.com. This is Audra Moore, and you're listening to Evil's Ancient Origins. Look for us on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever your favorite podcasts are found.